Back when she was in her prime, 99 out of 100 men who saw her handed over their hearts, which she, being in her prime, promptly handed back to them. The moon had seen them all go weeping off into the dark, her bedroom choked with the mingled scent of their hoarded flowers. They wasted away in vases of green, murky water, their drivel-filled cards unopened. In this stench of rotting blossoms, amid the whimpers of men who were no longer their own masters, she would sleep, their voluptuous sighs lacing her smug little dreams. But then one night, a night she would later describe as cold, autumnal, and tempestuous, she stood by her window, ears sifting through the roar of rain for the familiar sounds of male desperation. And no such sounds came. Perhaps they will come later on in the evening, is what she told herself, though it was already past midnight. It was lucky, damned lucky, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror just then, for she remembered she was still in her prime. Not only did the image staring back instantly soothe her, it gave her an idea.
I ought to immortalize myself today. You know, while I'm still what I am.
Her Pomeranian agreed it was wise. It was with a sense of euphoria, mingled with a sense of urgency, that she put on silk stockings, coated her mouth with vermilion goop, spritzed herself with perfume, brushed her auburn hair, winked at the mirror that had saved her, and, with a sense of purpose, she teetered off into the morning, now no longer gray, the clouds being infused with an ethereal peach light. She had not been walking long before she reached her destination, a park known for being the haunt of poets. She picked the bench by the yellow roses, where the light, or so she felt, hit her in a most becoming fashion. She did not have to wait long, for a sigh soon pricked her ears. It was a sound she knew well, the one she had so missed the night before. The sigh belonged to a young man named Henry, who had been sitting there since early dawn. He had anticipated the light that would follow the night's rain, and had hoped it would inspire him. All morning Henry had looked yearningly at the light, and the light had looked back wordlessly at Henry. First he had cursed God, then language, then himself. Then he saw the woman. The lovely woman beneath the yellow roses feeding little bits of croissant to her Pomeranian. A slew of mediocre phrases suddenly came to him in iambic pentameter, smacking his dull brain like the bored hand of God. About 10 minutes later, he had completed a sonnet comparing her hair to the dawn, her eyes to the dusk, her cheek to the April flower, her ear the autumn leaf, and his love to the unfurling tentacle of her primordial squid-like creature. It was terrible. She saw that instantly. So when he begged permission to join her, she acquiesced. She soon grew bored of his conversation, however, which consisted of little more than turning her into worn metaphors, and yawningly rose to leave. He cried, holding her fast, his poetry having made him bold.
You can't go. Oh, I'll be right back.
That afternoon found the woman walking dismally along the riverside, past vendors selling old books and photographs. "What are you smiling at? You're all dead now," she thought. Then, being morbid, she thought of her own death. Now, the park at this time was filled with hack painters painting tourists. Of course, she was above, leaps and bounds above, soliciting anyone's services. She would merely wait, in a picturesque fashion. There was one man who noticed her immediately, and that was Ivan. Ivan noticed her because he was the only painter who was not busy, who was indeed never busy. It wasn't that Ivan was a bad painter. In fact, he was actually quite good. Still, he never had any customers. But now inspiration had come in the form of the woman smirking beneath a soiled statue of Saint Genevieve, talking in a low voice to a Pomeranian who seemed to be listening. And so he took up his brush. A masterpiece, surely, and no doubt a vehicle to her heart. It was a likeness remarkably accurate, perhaps too accurate for its subjects. Ivan was understandably very distraught. Following her humiliation, she walked a long way down a number of streets without paying any heed to where she was going. Soon she was lost, and the open doors of unknown bars and cafes gaped at her like endless mouths of oblivion. It is all death, she thought, and the thought made her tired of walking.
Come here to die,
she announced softly. And so she chose a seat at a table by the window and waited for death. It wasn't a sigh of love that pricked her ears, finally, but one of frustration.
May I take this seat beside you?
But instead of staring at her, or speaking to her, this man, to her amazement, merely took the seat and turned his head toward the window like she wasn't there at all. Instead of handing her the rose, as she had expected, he kept it in his hands, idly twirling its thorny stem between his fingers. She let it go on for a time before she gave a little cough.
Oh, I didn't come here to speak to you, if that's what you're thinking. This is my usual seat, and it offers the only half-decent view of the street. Oh, come now, it can't be so terrible.
Oh, but it is. It is. You don't understand the day
She told him everything. Her dull morning, her glance in the mirror, her plan of salvation, the incident with the poet, and the incident with the painter, and how she had walked endlessly until the evening.
Now I'm pretty much just waiting for death.
Well, good luck to you.
That's it?
Well, what did you expect?
Don't you care that I'm going to die?
Well, I don't know you very well now, do I? Besides, sounds to me like you've led a charmed life. You couldn't have expected it to go on forever.
I didn't. I merely wanted a small reminder of myself in my prime.
Perhaps you haven't found the right medium.
Are you an artist?
Of sorts. My work is experimental.
I like experimental. I can do experimental.
I didn't say I was looking for a subject now, did I? Besides, even if I were, you wouldn't be it.
Well, why not?
I'd rather not say.
But millions of men have wanted to paint me, photograph me, compose songs and poems in my name.
My dear, I'm afraid you're simply not very interesting. I find nothing tragic or strange or mysterious or even slightly beautiful about you. In fact, I find you and your little rodent dog painfully mundane.
You're right.
Although, you might have some potential, perhaps, as a work in progress.
I do. Really? Tell me. Tell me.
It will be difficult.
I don't mind difficult.
Time-consuming.
I've got nothing left to do but die.
Painful, too. Excruciating in your case, perhaps. Not just physically, but spiritually.
Well, beauty is pain after all, isn't it?
That it is. Right. Now you must do exactly as I tell you.
Exactly as you tell me.
Turn and face the window. No, too far. Back to the left. A little more. No, back to the right. Excellent. Now don't move until I get back.
Where are you going?
Oh, I'll be back.
But of course, he did not come back. And slowly, the knowledge that he would never come back fell over her, darkening first her heart, then her eyes. Then it turned down her mouth at the corners. Then it leached the blood from her skin. Still, she remained where she was, for where else could she go?